Hello and welcome back. Let's catch up with Rails 4. In the previous lesson, we talked about the before action rename. Today we'll talk about caching. A lot has changed since Rails 3, and I'm going to show you the major differences. There's one thing you should consider first, and it regards active record. Let's open the comment model in here. I have prepared it for today's example. The comment class belongs to a commentable object. Whether it's a post or an image or an article, anything. At this point in time, when you create a comment, the commentable object is not updated. If you want to do that, and for the purpose of caching this is important, you need to add the touch true setting. When you do this, every time an object is created, the relationship is updated in the way that, for example, the post object is updated. So that's the first thing to consider. If you've been using caching in your application, you know there are three types of caching: page caching, action caching, and fragment caching. The new thing about Rails 4 is that page and action caching are off the table, meaning those features have been extracted into gems, and so for Rails core, you'll only gain access to fragment caching. If you still need page and action caching, you need to go to the gem file and add the following gems. If you want just the page caching, write this gem in the gem file. If you want just the action caching, then write just this one. Or keep both if you need both the features. The truth of the matter is, they have been removed from the Rails core and have been extracted into gems. So that leaves us with fragment caching. Let's go ahead and explore that subject. So I've booted up the server and I'm already in the list of posts. Each of the posts has several comments. This is the body of the post, and then right after, it's the list of comments. To post a new comment, I simply go ahead and post one. But I'm not going to do that, at least just for now. What I am going to do is enable caching and then update the way the comments are displayed. First of all, I'm going to enable caching in the development environment. So in line 14, I'll switch performing caching from false to true. This is not advised in development, but this is just for the sake of the example. In production, the default is true, so don't worry about that. Let's save and then move on. I'll open the show template from the posts, and now I'll enable some caching. To do that, I'll call the cache method, and I'll pass a variable or a string. In this case, I'm going to pass the post, and I'll open the block and I'm going to close it right in the end of the file. This will enable caching for the entire template. I'm going to save this and I'll reload the page. You see that nothing happened, but in the console we should have some information regarding the fragment caching. But that's not showing up because we didn't restart the server so that the caching settings are enabled. So I'm going to restart the server and reload the page again. In the browser, I'll reload, and now I'll go back to the console. Let's go a little up, and now you see that this is writing a cache fragment under views, posts, and then an enormous hash. So caching is working. Now is the time I post a new comment. If I type someone's name, for example, Susan, and try to type a comment, if I press create comment, you will see that the comment is correctly updated. Now, why is that? Well, since we used the touch true in active record, the cache expired, and so a new fragment cache was generated. Now, what happens if I go ahead to the template and change something inside? Let's say, for example, that instead of a block quote, I want a very simple div. So I'll swap this to div and reload the page. You see that nothing happens. I can assure you that the styling would be different. You can add nested caching using the well-known technique of Russian doll caching. You simply nest a cache like this. You pass cache, a variable or a string, with the content you want to cache. This will enable nested caching. Now, if I refresh the page, it took a while because it generated much more caching. In the console, you see several new fragments. It wrote and read some cache fragments. not just a post, but the entire list of comments. So this is working well. Now imagine that I want to update this block. So instead of block quote, I'll update it to div. When I reload the page, you see that nothing happens because cache is in effect. Now watch as I post a new comment. When I push create comment, you see that all of the remaining cache stays the same, but our new comment is updated. This looks a little funny. It shouldn't be this way, right? To do something like this, we will need to update the cache method. Suppose I want to change this paragraph from a gray color to something like a dark red. Saving and go to the browser, you see that nothing happens. This happens because we have caching active. One workaround we can use is to pass an array to the cache method. We can pass some sort of a version as the first element and then the post variable. Now, if I refresh the page, you see that the content is updated because we changed the hash to which it translates the fragment. If I update this again, for example, to the same gray color we had, if I reload, nothing happens because we didn't change the version. So we need to update this string. You would even pass, for example, a v2. This would work. In the browser, you reload, and there it is, the change that we wanted. We can do the same in line 17 by passing a version number in the comment. So let me update the content cache, and instead of the div, I'll update to the block quote that we had in the first place. So I saved, and I'm going to reload, and you see that nothing happens. This technique is not working because we have nested fragments, one inside the other. To do this, we will need to update this one as well. So v3, it would be here, and then v1 in the comment. Going back to the browser and reloading, there's the change that we wanted. So everything is working. Going back to the template, I want to change this to the red color again, and I want to change back to the div here. So I've made two changes, and I'll simply update the v4 in here. Saving here, reloading, you see that only the color is updated, but not the comments. To update the comments, go back again. I know this looks frustrating. We're updating two different caches with this method. And reloading, you see that it still doesn't happen because we need to update once again the post cache. Now we can update and everything works. This is rather frustrating. Developing Rails applications is all about making things easier and not difficult like this. It's rather tiring, I know. But the way that Rails 4 implements a new feature called cache digests solves this problem rather nicely. There's not much to explain, but rather to enjoy. I'm going to remove all of these version kinds of caching in the post and also in the comments. So I'm going to strip this away. I'm going to save, and notice that everything will not work because the cache is still up. There's this new gem called Cache Digests. What it does is it flushes the cache every time you deploy your application, meaning every time a Rails server instance is spawned. So that's exactly what's going to happen in Rails 4. You don't need to do this all over again, so you can strip this away, and every time you deploy your application, the cache is entirely flushed away and all of the content is updated accordingly. There's no need to worry about versioning or anything like that. So that is it on caching. Page and action caching are long gone and extracted to gems, but you can still use them by simply including those gems in the gem file. Regarding fragment caching, the Cache Digest gem solves a lot of problems regarding cache expiration. I hope you have enjoyed the content today. This was the last lesson on controllers and views, and in the next lesson we'll cover the new features of Rails 4, and we'll start off with live streaming. I hope to see you there. Thanks for watching.